How credible is this development and how significant is this development, General? China supplying aerial defense systems to Iran amidst all of this. And another US intelligence report also tells us that thousands of more missiles are there in Iranian stockpiles. They could retrieve the launchers very soon as well.
Yes, Kabir, the reprieve or the respite, as we talk about it, give both the sides an opportunity to replenish their weapons, equipment and carry out repairs and find those loopholes which they found wanting during this last 60 days of exchange. Both Iran, Israel and the US will be carrying out repair, maintenance and replenishment and reinforcements. Similarly, now Iran is carrying out repair of their launchers. They are retrieving anything which was blocked or which got damaged during the massive bombing by Israelis and the Americans. And similarly, whatever they found was shortcoming in their air defense, they are replenishing it with the help of the Chinese. Chinese were doing it earlier also, and they are going to do it again. So nobody can stop that. So what you are saying is absolutely right. All the parties will be now carrying out repair, maintenance, replenishment, and getting ready for the next round. If the things and the chips go down.
Earlier, General, we've got some news to understand. I think this was about 30 hours back that the railway bridges that the strikes had hurt in Iran, they've already managed to make and build those back again. So the resilience of the Iranian infrastructure has again come to light. But help us understand these two contradicting pictures. On the one hand, you've got these delegations that are talking for quote-unquote peace in Islamabad. On the other hand, Israeli strikes exchanging with Hezbollah strikes in Zefta, in Nabatiyeh, in southern Lebanon. What does one make of this? Are these essentially going to lead to any kind of peace, or this is a recount to a larger war?
See, the thing is that as far as Iran is concerned, they have seen whatever happened in the previous negotiations.
Yeah.
If we talk about the previous negotiation on 26th of Feb itself, people were making a statement that we are very close to an agreement.
Yep.
Now, if they were very close to an agreement, then why the hell did the Americans and the Israelis carry out an attack? And if you recollect, as far as the Israelis are concerned, they want to take the revenge of the 7 October 2023 attack on Israel. And they, as far as they were concerned, the Ayatollah Khomeini and the hierarchy of IRGC was their target. So they achieved that target on 28th itself. So as far as Israel is concerned, that revenge was taken then. And thereafter, of course, the Americans wanted the cap on the nuclear program, and they were carrying out massive bombing of their nuclear assets. But again, I feel they have not been able to achieve that, because the Iranians over the years have found a resilience in making sure that their enriched uranium is kept safe. So now the thing is that what is going to be the final outcome? The final outcome is that if you recollect the fatwa by the Ayatollah himself, he had said that we will not make nuclear bomb. So if you go by that fatwa, now the Ayatollah is no more there. So that fatwa is gone. So the next hierarchy which comes in has now realized that if they don't have a nuclear weapon, they will be attacked again and again. Even the North Koreans have been telling the Iranians, go ahead and make a nuclear device. And we have been hearing this for the past few years, that the Iranians are just a screwdriver away from making a nuclear device. That is the statement by the IAEA. So whom do we take as correct? Does the Iranians already have it, or are they keeping mum over it? And then what of the NPT, non-proliferation treaty, which the Iranians are signatories to?
Yeah.
They have an option of exiting that. They can exit that with a notice, like the North Koreans did in 2003. So if they exit the NPT, they are free to make a nuclear device. If there are such circumstances which compel them to go nuclear, that is a provision in the NPT. So now the thing is that will Iran exit from the NPT and go ahead with a nuclear program, and will then US carry out massive attack back on Iran, and then will Iran open the Straits of Hormuz?
Yeah.
Mark.
It's going to be very interesting, General. And you've broken it down. Many thanks for that eloquent summarization of what might be on the cards. I must ask you at this point in time as well, General. JD Vance led delegation is a little late to arrive. There could be security reasons behind it, the air sector that they took to travel, maybe not willing to enter the Russian airspace on their way to Islamabad. What are some security measures that might have been taken into account? We've seen it time and again in previous trips as well that, unannounced, plane changes midway. What could be the reason for this particularly? Would you like to throw some light on that, General?
Definitely. Security concerns are always there, but the Americans make sure that whenever a VIP flight is there, they are given adequate protection by way of their own fighter escorts and their planes being refueled in air. So that we don't have to bother about. But I personally feel that they were waiting for a final confirmation whether the Iranian team is going to come to Islamabad or not. Because if you recollect, till late in the evening yesterday, there was a question mark whether the Iranians are going to come and take part in the negotiations. So maybe they were taking time and delaying this entire activity, waiting for the final confirmation. And after coming to know that the Iranian team has arrived and what are their takes to start the negotiations, based on that they have now landed and they have reached Islamabad for the talks. So I personally feel that security, couldn't be such a big issue, because all VIP flights, even in a war zone, are declared and they are guaranteed by the people from whose airspace they pass through.
What could be the reason, General, that United States is playing its cards too close to their chest? Look at the fanfare with which and the grandiose with which the Iranians have been welcomed, and look at the U.S. delegation. On the one hand, you've got at least more than 35 people as part of the Iranian delegation. On the other hand, you've got Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, of course, JD Vance leading that delegation. You will have US officials as well, but it's not going to be the same thing sitting across from that table.
Absolutely, Kabir. As far as the Iranians are concerned, beside the key players, which are basically the speaker, the foreign minister, the people for the National Security Advisory Board, and the people of the banking sector who look after the finances of the Iranians. On the other hand, they just have three people. Maybe the commander of the CENTCOM may join them. But look at the diversity. JD Vance was somebody who was always in favor of talks. Steve Witkoff has been a hardliner who has always been wanting to go for the offensive. And the third person, who is the son-in-law of Trump, is himself a Jew. So there are three people with three different divergent viewpoints from within the American team. So we have to see now, will JD Vance hold the sway? Because he will also like to show to the American people that he was able to negotiate a good deal, and maybe he is also vying for the next presidency in the US. And now Witkoff and the others have interest within Pakistan of the Bitcoin and all that. For them it is maybe a business trip to Islamabad. So we have to see what is going to be the final outcome. But the things are going to get sticky on the question of Hormuz and the nuclear enrichment. These are the two issues in which there is going to be a massive resentment and friction.
At one of those Republican administration cabinet meeting, General, I remember Steve Witkoff, Pete Hegseth got a chance, Marco Rubio got a chance, JD Vance, who's already scored massive points by becoming the shadow broker for, for that ceasefire. And the fragility and the key gaps in the ceasefire, that's a completely separate topic. At least for now, 14 days of cessation of hostilities, that's a great point in this West Asian war. But I specifically remember Steve Witkoff saying, who was somebody, by the way, who was leading those nuclear talks, in Geneva, the round which was supposed to take place later on in Vienna as well. He is somebody who clearly said Iran is trying to stall the nuclear talks. They're waiting for a weaker president to come. They're waiting. It's a waiting game that's being played by Iran. So no more talks, and that's why we went on with this war. And take a look at this. After 40 days, you've circled back to square one. You're again on the table. You're again doing the same talks with the same people that you were doing 40 days back.
Absolutely, Kabir. I'll tell you another story. The president of the US can start a war which can last less than 60 days. If it is going to last more than 60 days, he needs the clearance of the Congress. So now, as far as Donald Trump was concerned, he was only worried that if there is no resolution and there is not been able to win the war, which he was saying that I'll finish in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and it is going to snowball beyond 60 days, then he goes to the Congress. He's got no other choice. And there's massive resentment within US regarding the American troops getting involved in the Iranian conflict. So you see, as far as Donald Trump is concerned, he's also on a tight leash. He's got a very narrow window to sort out this issue. And he must show that he's a winner. Though he's been saying that we have won the war, we have decimated the Air Force, we have decimated the Navy, we have killed the entire hierarchy of Iran. Iran is still standing steadfast. It does not make a difference. It was already known to the Iranians that this is what the Americans and the Israelis will do. And they were ready for that. So now the thing is that has the Americans and the Israelis won this war? It's a big question mark. Winning a war is a different issue altogether. A number of casualties, number of losses makes no difference. There's a difference between a...
What's more,
battle
General,
and winning a
is
war.
that Melania Trump yesterday, out of nowhere, from the same podium where Donald Trump said we've decimated the Iranian Navy, comes and says, I've got nothing to do with the Epstein files. Now, what made the First Lady come out of nowhere, this weird disavowal of, the Epstein files, and what Donald Trump and the White House were trying so hard to bury, she's ended up reviving that entire chat and topic.